All right, it's 4 o'clock, October 12th. I call to order the City Council workshop. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Tess.
You guys hear me?
Hold on. Testing.
Slow.
I don't think the mic's on.
Mic check, mic check. Nope.
4 o'clock, October 12th. I call to order the city. Hello, no. Want to wait 5 minutes, Mario?
Yeah, we can. We can wait 5 minutes. Councilwoman Julian. Councilman Stevens. Here. Vice Mayor Leon.
Here.
Mayor Harris.
I'm present.
You have a quorum.
Please stand for the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
God our Father, thank you for your grace and mercy towards us. Thank you, God, for this day that was not promised. Father, we pray that you continue to rain your many blessings upon this great city that we call Miami Gardens. God, continue to give us your knowledge, your wisdom, and your understanding in all things. We promise to give your name all the praise, honor, and glory that your precious name deserves. It is in your Son's name I do pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we're on the presentation. Mr. Clerk? Or Mr. Manager?
We're on item 4.1, presentation by Yolanda Cass Jackson, Esquire of Becker, in preparation of the 2023 legislative session. This is sponsored by the city manager.
Mr. Manager?
Mayor, council members, we passed our Jackson speaker today to give us an update on where we heading into the session, and probably have some discussion on some of the things we may need to do as a city moving forward for our session. We've asked her to do it.
Ms. Jackson, you have the floor. Yeah, we hear you.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me still?
Mayor.
Okay.
Mayor.
Good afternoon.
Can we move the,
Mayor, council members?
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I will acknowledge the representative.
Yeah.
So happy to
Yeah.
have with us Representative Felicia Robinson, fresh off a trip from with the Black legislative women. So we're very proud of the work that she did in,
With a
in
broken
Washington.
ankle, too. Uh-huh.
So I'm going to yield. Do you have any remarks, Representative?
No, you can stay seated. I don't want you to hurt your ankle. No, stay seated and just speak.
You know, the educator in me is always happy when you are going the extra mile to make sure that we educate ourselves and we can well prepared for what's next. So I think that you all having this workshop is great. I'm happy that you all do it, and I look forward to continue working with my community.
Thank you.
And I must also acknowledge Latoya Shields, who will be assisting me today. So first of all, thank you for this opportunity. It's a long time coming, and I know a desire that you all had. So what we're going to do today seems to be elementary, but very necessary because we've had a lot of changes. So we'll go through almost a picture book, and then we can go through the changes, and then we'll along the way talk about some of the things that's going on in Tallahassee that you need to be prepared for this time. We have a lot of changes. So if you bear with me, I'm going to ask that you feel free to stop me and ask questions. No question is too simple because we have had a lot of changes. So I'd like to start out with the executive leadership. I mean, we all know Governor DeSantis, or as my aunt calls him, DeSanchez. But anyway, Governor DeSantis is up for re-election. The polls have him out about 7 points ahead, but we need not forget that the last gubernatorial race was only separated about 30,000 votes, which equated to about 500 votes per county. So Florida is known for its close races. I think that you would have to agree that Florida is still purple, and any race will be close. Now, that being said, Governor DeSantis has well over $100 million. I think the last count was about $130 million in the bank, and Charlie Crist had $5 million. So, but do happen. But right now, that's where we are. So we, if I were to make a prediction, we don't see right now, what the polls don't see, I should say it, as DeSantis being defeated, but, stranger things have happened. So, but God. All right, I'm not allowed to say that because I have to work on both sides of the aisle, so we don't know, but right now the polls have him ahead. He is going into this election with Jeanette Nunez, knowing that the Hispanic vote is very important. As you know, Charlie Crist, former governor and Congressman Charlie Crist also chose a Hispanic woman as his running mate. I don't think that was an accident. But, so we have this race going on. Also, all the cabinet officers are up, every last one of them. Ashley Moody is up versus Aramis Ayala, and Jimmy Patronis has an opponent, Adam Hattersley. And then the Commissioner of Agriculture position is an open seat where we have Naomi Blamur and Wilton Simpson, former Senate President. I think that it is important to note that this is a record number of African-American women that we've had on the ticket, starting with Val Demings, then Ayala, and then Blamur. We have never had 3 Black women on a statewide ticket. We've never had Black women on a statewide ticket. So this is very interesting to see what the result of that would be. And a lot of people have not acknowledged that, at least the mainstream press has not. And we know that is, these races are all about turnout, and we don't know what Black women are gonna do. They've been well sought out, and we've been well sought out, and we expect a heavy turnout in terms of Black women. They are the most reliable electorate with the Democratic Party, the most reliable electorate with the Democratic Party. So that being said, all politics is local, and we have had a change with redistricting. So as you know, the governor went in and put in his own maps, which resulted in a change for our congressional maps with our own Congresswoman Wilson now having a much different district encompassing Miami Beach. In Broward County, Debbie Wasserman Schultz now has Miramar. And we watched the race of Sheila McCormick. She still has a general, but she goes up into North Broward, up into Palm Beach. And so the number of Black Caucus members in Florida could diminish. So far, it has not. Val Deming's seat over in Orlando was won by Maxwell Frost. He is all of 25 years old, and he beat out some veterans. But we're still waiting to see what happens in the Panhandle with Al Lawson. As you know, he's a former senator, former leader, current congressman, and his seat is being challenged as well. So we may lose a Black Caucus member. The seat that was District 4 is now 5 and has been split. The Black vote in Duval County has been split. So I just want to mention that just so that you know some of the changes that have gone on throughout the state. So we have a little smaller, possibly Black caucus at the federal level. At the state level, you're represented by fewer people as well. Not a bad thing. We have our own representative, Felicia Robinson, and Representative Christopher Benjamin. Both their districts have changed just a little bit. Representative Robinson's district has encompassed more of Broward, and that's very interesting combination. And I want to tell you why that's interesting, because we don't talk about what's going on in Broward County. I want to share that with you. Then we have Senator Chevron Jones, which will be solely in Dade County. That's a big change. So he no longer has West US Park. Yes, sir.
I know for the most part, Representative Robinson and Benjamin represents majority of Miami Gardens.
Right.
But isn't there a portion on the west side with the new maps that brought in another representative, though they made up more portion of the unincorporated part of Miami-Dade?
If it is, I think he stops at 52nd.
Unincorporated, but I'm gonna check it out.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
Right. So we may have another one, but I think that's the only 2 with the new lines.
Got you.
But Senator Jones having all of Dade County is very interesting. That means that he has a lot of cities. He had a lot of cities before. He has a lot of cities. He now has North Bay Village, Miami Beach, Miami Shores, North Miami Beach. And so we have to really stand out. And that's why it's so important that we're doing this right now. He loves us. I think he's going to be a resident of Miami Gardens. However, we still have competition with a lot more cities with a lot of needs. So I wanted to mention that. Also in Broward County, so let's talk about in Broward County. Let's go back to 2018 when we got our first Black state attorney in Broward County. I don't know if you know, but it's important that you know because you are so close to Broward that the entire slate of constitutional offices in Broward is Black, except for Martin Kier, who's the property appraiser. So we experienced a Wakandaism in Broward that when you combine it, what's going on in Miami Gardens and Miramar, we have a big chunk of Black Florida. We don't talk often in terms of regionalism, but perhaps we might want to do that. When you look at Miramar, their entire commission is Black. When you look at West Park, their entire commission is Black. And then if you go to cities like Lauderdale Lakes, Lauderhill, has a Black
chair of the criminal justice.
There will be new chairs. He may be. So they'll have, very good question. Once the election is over, November 8th, they'll have what they call an organizational session, probably around the week of the 17th. 22nd, okay, 22nd. And then they'll name the new chairs and committee members. But I expect that he might. Now, that being said, we could have a supermajority in the Senate and the House. So they say. The pundits are saying that the numbers are so favorable for Republicans that we could end up with a supermajority. That is, they don't need us to even come. They don't need Democrats to even come because there'll be 2/3 in the House and 2/3 in the Senate. We've had 2/3 in the House before, and I can tell you that it was a good lobbyist year because they ate their young, because everybody wants to be in leadership and people want to be independent. They want to take things home. And so they have to cut deals. And once they start cutting deals, then that's good for everybody. So we do expect, we do expect that there's talk of being a supermajority.
I just want to interject, but because it's before November the 8th, and we have feet on the ground, if our people come out and vote, that doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen. All right, that doesn't have to happen.
We have the numbers, with everybody comes out.
Yeah, so you've been hearing a lot about registrations and more Republican registrations. What has happened also is that we have an increased number of folks that have now filed for independent. So no party affiliation. That number is growing. And as the polls indicate that Republicans could do well, the polls also indicate that those voters are leaning Democrat on many issues. So we don't know what the MPAs are going to do. All right, let me just quickly go through the House. Speaker Sprouse is out. The new speaker is Paul Renner. We actually met with him on, was that yesterday? Monday. It seems like a lot longer, but he's up in the Volusia County, St. Augustine area. He's a lawyer and relatively conservative. He is roommates with a guy named Bobby Payne, who is out of Palatka, who we work with. So we're expecting that we'll have good communication with leadership in the House. Brian Avila is now in the Senate. You may recall that he took Manny Diaz's place. Manny Diaz is now Department of Education Commissioner. He had some of our area. He had Hialeah. And so Avila will take on that. He doesn't have opposition. I don't think he has opposition. So he will represent just west of you, all the way down to 112. So he has some of Brown Sub too, the western part. So the east part of Hialeah. Real interesting what's going on in Hialeah in terms of their closeness to the Trump administration. Discussion of Proud Boys. So, you know, all politics is local. We need to pay attention to what's going on with our neighbors. Then Clemens has a race, a general. We expect that he will win, but that's a very toss-up race that's in Gainesville. So we may have a little bit of changes there. Appropriations, I just put this on here just so that you could see the changes. This is the Money Committee. Representative Bush is out. Ashley Gant is in. Whether or not she will be on appropriations as a freshman, probably not, but you never know. Remember, with the supermajority, they have a lot of people to place. A lot of people to place. But so she's out. Geller's out, term limits. Duran is out, term limits. And I mentioned the other people. Trumbull, who you see was the appropriations chair, is now in the Senate. He took Gaynor's place in the Panhandle. Senator Gaynor was well up in age and decided that he was not going to seek re-election. What does that mean? That means that we have somebody in the Senate that's very much familiar with appropriations because he was appropriations chair. So we look forward to him being in the Senate. The guy to the bottom right, Danny Perez, we just left him before we came here. He is going to be the speaker in 2 years. Why do I mention that? This is the time that he needs new friends. We need to invite him to Miami Gardens. We need to make sure that he knows about Miami Gardens. You all interact in so many ways in the community. You may run into Danny Perez. It's important that you know that he's going to be the speaker in 2 years. So he has this year, and then the next year he'll be starting his speakership. That's when he has the most power. Yes, sir.
No, I was saying, what area does Danny represent?
Danny has South Dade. South Dade.
South Dade.
Right. So let's talk about former speakers. We had Jose Oliva. Remember, he was out of Miami Lakes. He was the speaker for 2 years. I don't think we got anything earth-shattering out of Oliva. He pretty much was a loner. Marco Rubio was also speaker out of Dade County. And we have some vestiges of stuff that he did, the Children's Initiative. And so we have an opportunity for ideas. If you all, anybody is as old as I am in this process, remember that Marco Rubio, when he became speaker, he did this whole thing about 100 ideas. And he asked people around the state to give him ideas. Well, that's what we should do. You have some visions, your leadership visions. We need to share that vision. We got 2 years before we're going to have a speaker that's from our neck of the woods to acquaint him with our issues, with the very, very exciting things that's going on in Miami Gardens. I know I get excited. We were riding down 27th Avenue. I saw Chipotle and all that, and I thought, well, you know what? We are really moving in a direction that we can really take advantage of some of our ideas now. You know, you guys put it in place, so now it's time for the ideas. But anyway, wanted to also mention the next group of people, Ben Albritton. Ben Albritton is from a little town called Watchung, and he's going to be the Senate president. He's from Polk County, which Latoya's been spending a lot of time in Polk County. She's from Polk County. Polk County is the mecca for upcoming leadership in the Senate. Ben Albritton did water projects. You all may remember that he was chair of the Water Project Committee, for lack of a better word, in the House for many, many years, and went on to take on that role along with Debbie Mayfield over in the Senate. And now he is going to be the Senate president after Pasadoma. After Pasadoma. So once again, we know where to be looking in the future. You got friends in Polk County not but so be it. We want to reach out now because he will be the Senate president in 2 years. So when Danny Perez is speaker, he'll be Senate president. Okay? Ray Rodriguez has gone on to be the chancellor. The reason I mention him is his seat is now represented by a whole new guy, Senator Martin. And Senator Martin has some of those tough areas that you all served the other day when you took water and over there. That's somebody, when we go to Tallahassee, we want to go and see Senator Martin and let him know what we did to help out his constituency. How about that? I mean, those are the kind of relationships that we're going to start to develop over time. Ileana Garcia has a race, general. As you remember, she beat JJR, and there's the whole dark candidate thing. But she's running a strong race, but you know, it is a contested race, and that district is pretty close Republican Democrat. So we'll see what happens down in South Dade. All right. I put these pictures up for House Ag and Natural Resources Appropriations. You've had some desire to do water projects. So this is the committee. Now, some of these people are gone, and we're going to miss them. I'm going to really miss Representative Onfroy, She had a very close relationship with Representative Tom Cowell, who's on the far left. And she's on the far left, and we asked her if she will be chairing that committee again, Tom Cowell. She was very good at it. She's also from where? Polk County. So you see what I'm talking about. Polk County has a little bit of juice. There was another appropriations chair that came out of Polk County, and that was J.D. Alexander. For those of us Gators know the Alexander family, Ben Hill Griffin family. But anyway, she could chair that committee again. Next to her is Demi Basada. Demi was the legislative aide to Anna Terra Flores, and she plans to remain on that committee. You can expect her to be one of the lieutenants of Danny Perez. She has the Coconut Grove area, and just because of her vast knowledge, having been in the process, we expect her to take a leadership role. Kevin Chambliss has taken quite an interest in ag. As you know, he has Homestead, Florida City, Redlands in his district, and so we expect that he'll be important for water projects as well. He plans to stay on that committee. I don't see why he wouldn't. And then Capricio is on the right. He's your neighbor. He's my representative where I live, just off of Miami Gardens Drive all the way west. And he did have a little bit of Broward, but I think he's all in Dade now. He's an attorney out of Broward County. Then I talked to you about Broxton. Broxton's going to be the chair of appropriations, so they say it hasn't been named, but rumors abound. And a vice chair of Senate appropriations has not yet been named. I mentioned also higher ed approach. I put it on here because you had a project where you wanted to get some funding for scholarships for your residents. And these folk were a part of the decision of you getting funds. This is going to change. We don't know who's going to be on higher ed approach. We're hoping maybe one of our legislators, because we have two universities in Miami Gardens, will consider being on this very, very important committee. Geraldine Thompson is now in the Senate. She beat Representative Camille Brown, and Representative Greco is out. He decided not to run. Representative Rizzo is your neighbor. He has Miami Lakes. I mentioned that he is your neighbor. He is going to be close with Danny Perez. Mm-hmm. So, that's someone who we want to reach out to as well.
Former educator.
Yep, former educator, that's right. My mom was his guidance counselor, highly high. And Anthony Rodriguez, who's now going to be on the county commission. So we've had a lot of movements. That's the point. We've had a lot of movements, but we see some people who we're going to have relationships with, and we can start now. HHS approach, very important because of the health disparity population in what I described between Broward and Dade, and it's Chocolate City, it's Wakanda, and so health appropriations is really, really important. You all are very aggressive with your breast cancer and screening and health screening. That's important. Senator Jones has always sat on that committee. So has Senator Rousson came off, but he wants to get back on that committee. There's so many things that HHS approach takes care of. Your senior programming, that's something that we haven't really focused on. Senior program is doing very well for municipalities. West Park got $250,000, I think, for their senior programming. It's something that we should maybe consider as you start to do priorities. What we want to do is not have everything in the same bucket. We want to have some water projects, maybe some senior programming, and get a little bit creative. However, we have to speak in one voice. something that you guys need to come up with in terms of priorities. Not a lot of them, not 5, maybe 3. Maybe 3 good ones that you want to have that we can take to Representative Robinson, and we'll go through some of the forms. And just so that we are on one accord, you have a very unique situation that you all have special relationships with legislators. But no matter what, we still need to speak in the voice of the priority of the city, because people get confused. And communication is so, so important. Talking to the legislators, finding out where your projects are, finding out who they talk to. Sometimes we light a fire to them too. Did you go talk to so-and-so? And give them a 1-pager of the priority that you did. Also, when you come to Tallahassee, we'll be on one accord. I hope that everybody will come up to Tallahassee. We won't go doing day days. You go do day days on your own. But we want to probably talking about January or so to go. Remember, session starts in March this year because it's not an election year. But every time you go, you guys do a great job. But this time, let's go with maybe 3 priorities and really, really focus on something substantive. We'll kind of talk about what that looks like. House healthcare appropriations. I told you Avila's gone, now in the Senate. Brown is gone. Nick Duran is gone. Other committees, transportation, economic development. I put that on there. That's going to pretty much stay the same, except Gaynor is gone. I told you. I don't know that, so I don't know who's going to chair TED approach is what we call it. But all of your street projects, your street lighting, your road projects, cleanup projects, all come out of TED. And I won't even go through the House, but let's go on to this little ball here with these. We can put this up for Councilwoman Wilson. It's in pink and green. I'm just messing with you. Seeing if you're paying attention. But let's just go through this chart. Let me just stop to see if you have any questions so far, because I know we went through those pretty fast. Any questions? Okay.
Oh, I got one.
Yes.
What are the dates that you're looking at to have us to turn in these 3
Good
initiatives for
question.
us?
So the forms, when are we going to turn in the forms? The dates to turn in the forms, right?
The 3 top
The 3 top
Oh,
priorities.
3 priorities.
Yeah.
So I would say January is when we have to put them in. So in the next, I don't know if you have meetings in December, I would say December-ish, that you need to be talking about your priorities.
I was gonna say you need to start now, like
Yeah.
after this workshop, you all need to have other conversations about what you all want to do, because although committee week won't start until January, you want to have your strategy together so that January you can get right into, let's start talking who this chair is,
Right.
So,
Yeah, it's not too early to start. With the forms will be due, and we'll go through the forms. The forms will be due sometime in December, January at the latest, the first week of January at the latest. So you need to get with your departments, and get this on the agenda to come up with your priorities. Yes, sir.
So
I have, go ahead, Vice Mayor.
So, Mr. Mayor, we probably need to come up with something in December so we can have it ready, like a private meeting or a meeting amongst all of us, so we can have it ready for them by January with us discussing whatever we want back and forth.
Vernita, how much time would you need between now and then to sit down with each one of us to get those priorities together and then compile them into 3 top priorities?
You hear me?
You're gonna have to.
we can work through it through the month of December, like now, through the month of November, and have great goals for the week.
Okay. So you'll get with each individual and then we all could talk about what our 3 top priorities will be. Okay.
Can, But can we, in addition to meeting individually, is there a way that those top three that is finalized come back before us so that we can make sure we're on the same page? Right, but I think in the past, it's always been individual conversations, and by the time they come to us, we're pressing for time, because now it's on the city agenda meeting, and we're voting on it once we see it beforehand. I guess what I'm saying is, before it make it to the city council agenda, that it needs to come back to us, have a conversation with us after we compile it, to give us ample enough time to make sure that we're moving with one voice.
I think it's gonna have to be that way because it's only 3 for the entire city, not 3
I'm
per
saying, but where we
person.
come with the number three?
You may
With the,
have, see,
How we got
Yeah, I don't
three?
like three.
That's what she just
it's
said.
hard to go.
It's hard to
and
go
give-
with 5 and 6 priorities.
Right.
It drives the legislators crazy.
No, just for point of clarity, it's 3 for the entire city, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Right, so then we will, of course, we will have to meet.
We'll compile
To
them
compile them
and
and see
then
which
decide
3 are
which
we gonna
ones are
go
the
on.
top 3.
No,
Okay, but
I
wait,
get
hold
what
up
y'all
now.
saying. I get that we gonna compile and have 3. I'm not saying that we're not, or whatever the number we decide to move forward with. What I'm saying is, before it make it to the city agenda, can we have a workshop where we come back collectively again to discuss those 3? In the past, what has happened is we have the individual conversations, and then before us to vote on it, at which point we're now pressing for time. Because we literally have roughly, if we go based off our schedule for the remaining of this calendar year, we have somewhat between 2 to 3 council meetings. That's not enough time to deliberate what we think is our top 3 priorities, in my opinion. So what I'm saying is, can we collectively come back together after the individual meetings to discuss priorities for the city?
Yeah, we would have to do
We
that
got to.
though before we send it up to Tallahassee.
Right, and how we do that is when it comes on the city agenda at the council meeting.
No,
So you
I'm
wanna
saying
have a
prior
special-
to.
you wanna have a
So you
special-
want to have a
Another
special
workshop,
workshop?
another workshop, prior to it making to the city council agenda meeting, can we have a workshop among us to discuss those priorities that the manager and his team pulled together and present to us as our priorities?
Well, yeah.
I mean, but what's?
You know, it seems to me, we can have 3 priorities, but I think to have only 3 items is insane. And the reason why I say that is because my past experience has said, even if you go with 3, you don't know how they're gonna vote.
Well,
And so you get up there, I'm saying, you get up there, and based on who's on the committee, oftentimes the issues that we might have put forth, they may not be leaning in that direction, particularly since we got so many new ones that we may not know. So I would not want to go with only 3. I would say maybe 6 with 3 as our top priorities clearly delineated, and maybe the other 2 or 3, should we find we don't have a way to get the others in. You follow
Let me say this. Last year, we did exactly that. We went up there with about 6 or 7
small,
priorities.
very small.
And then we had others that came in kind of late. And then what we ran into while we were in Tallahassee was the legislators were asking us, well, out of these 6, which ones are the top priorities that you want? Or what would be your top priorities
Right.
out of this 6 list?
Right,
And we got that response from everybody.
sure.
So
And you get that response because when you're trying to work it, and you're trying to work those appropriations, and you're talking to the different chairs, they're asking you, what's your top 3? Put them in order.
Sure.
And there was some legislators that even said, well, if we were able to get you just one,
Which one would it be?
which one would it be?
I got it. And
So-
I got that we've got to have our priorities. I'm just saying that it looks like we don't get nothing. And no, I'm just saying, it looks as if we don't get anything because we have only 3, and they look at the 3 and they know from the beginning that we're not gonna pass those 3. What happened? Did this go on in? Light just go out.
There we go.
The lights going.
No,
Well, that's
I know the
understand-
bill be paid though, because play don't play that.
Councilwoman, I understand the dilemma, but we do want to get 3 priorities. If you have some other things that you have of interest. For example, Airbnb, some of them may be money. That's the other thing. Doesn't just have to be money. It could be an issue. Airbnb is a big issue now in urban areas. I don't know if it's happening in Miami Gardens, but it is a problem because people are renting houses and having big parties, and you don't know who, the neighbors don't know, whatever. And so that's a substantive issue that may be a priority, but it's not a money priority. So you decide, what's most important.
And see, I guess that's why I'm saying, when we take a look at 3 priorities, there may be right now issues that are not as important to us, but can bring something home to us because it is a priority. Like you were saying with the water, it may not be our priority now, but we may get up there, and because this person is now the chair of a committee, it now suddenly becomes a priority, when on our list it's number 4 or number 5. So I'm basically saying that I would love to be able to pull a list together that says these are our top 3, but here are the ones that we're
some other
flexible
things
enough
that
that the dynamics may say we can pull this in and see if we can get that passed.
Right.
I would agree, if I may, I would suggest, like Yolanda said, to have different things to go in different silos. So that way, if your priority is all about what they are willing to buy.
Right.
We will know more of that after the election and what we hear from speakers and presidents. So then we can say, City of Miami Gardens, water, that's not it. But you do have a senior programming project, and they are really big on healthcare this year. Let's do that.
Let me,
I got you.
go ahead, Councilman.
Okay, so let me make sure I'm understanding, this process. Okay, because I know we talked a little bit. Because based on the initiatives that we did, help me remember, colleague, we did a whole list. I thought it was more than 6. I thought it was like 10 to 15. Am I wrong?
It was a large.
No, you're right.
I thought we had a bigger
we had a
list,
big
and that was an issue. So that's why when I came to you, I was like, okay, what are we doing? Can you help us do this better? And if we have to do 6, 3, whatever it is, if we each pick 3, that's important to us or an issue for the city. Okay, now it's 7 of us. So now we gotta come back to the table and decide out of that amount, our top, let's say 3 to 6 amongst us. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I would suggest 3. It's just really hard. You heard me describe how many cities Senator Jones has.
Right.
How many cities you have. And so we need to get down to 3 to really.
When you talk about the amount that you all turned in last year, I don't think the amount was so much.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that.
Well, what my thing was, out of those 10, 4 or 5 of them were dealing with water. And it was
Right.
water, and it was very small project. And so when you're going to try to fight for this, say, I want $25,000 for, they looking at you like, really, this is what you're gonna do for?
Right.
And they wasn't looking at none of those 5.
Right.
Okay.
So it's not just the number, it's what they are.
Can I ask a question?
Okay, I didn't
So,
know.
and I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. So it's not necessarily the projects itself, because you all mentioned that the legislators are questioning, saying, well, which one are priorities? They're not questioning based off different committees. So if you're talking about an infrastructure project, but a senior project, those 2 committees are not saying, well, what are your priorities between senior projects and infrastructure? You're talking about, as the rep just mentioned, if there's 5 different water projects, which of these water projects are y'all concerned about?
Well, you kind of mix it apples and oranges because
What do you mean apples and oranges?
let me just clarify. So if you have, say all your priorities are, the 3 priorities are all water projects, I would probably say that's not a good idea. Let's have a water, because so the way the process works, we get the form, and I'm going past my presentation, but we get the form, and we take it to your legislators, or sometimes it's not somebody in your district, but basically your
Sure,
legislators.
sure.
And they then have to go and make a case. And they may say to us, listen, ain't no use you bring me 3 water projects because I'm only gonna get one. Top Gal's gonna give me one. And that's generally what happens. So it has to be flexible enough. I think we had a double problem, a double challenge, a double opportunity. I hate to say problem. One, we need to ask for more. We need to at least $500,000, at least on water, 250, because you have to have a match. All right, and matches has not been a problem for you, but you know, somewhere around 500 for a water project is good. You know, and we can kind of gauge based on our experience how much you should be asked for. But it's just as much work to do 50,000 as it is 500.
Yeah, I guess I'm still trying to figure out based off categories.
Oh, but just if you just get the list.
No, I want to understand. So if you're talking about, for an example, infrastructure projects, water improvement, water, whatever
Right.
situation, and then you go down to health services,
Right.
and you're talking about senior projects, are you suggesting that we create a list of your top priorities in different categories?
No,
Or
that overall, just overall. Listen,
Well,
the
look like
likelihood of you getting,
overall?
I wanted to say, going back to.
it's too many people talking. Let me
Because I'm confused now.
answer your question.
Mhm.
So you're gonna give me 3 projects. It may be healthcare, there may be water, there may be whatever. I'm just saying, give me 3. Even if you give me 1 in each silo, that helps, but you're not gonna get 7 projects.
Sure.
That's my point. Does that make sense?
No.
No, doesn't make sense?
Can we do it this way? No, I guess what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out how I can give you what you're asking for.
Yeah, me too.
So like to me, I'm trying to figure out the process that we would go through. And there has to be some type of process of elimination to get us down to the 3 core projects, which is why I think I understand why we would need to come back together and to have a conversation about what's doable based on, like, I may submit my 3 and you, and we end up with 21, but then we come back and we say, now, what goes together that gives us, say, 6, and then we have to sit with you guys and you say, okay, you need to be able to narrow this down. Here are the ones that we think have the greatest promise. And because it seems as if we're going to be looking for a match, whatever we're asking for, we have to budgetarily be able to cover it on this side. So that requires another kind of internal discussion that we would
And the
need
matches
to
can
have.
come from different places. It doesn't necessarily have to come out of your budget. So say you're getting a federal grant for extra police, and that's one of your priorities, is increase police presence, you want to ask for something else. That federal money can be a match. Say you get a grant from the Knight Foundation, that can be a match. It doesn't necessarily have to be out of your coffers.
Yeah, but it'll still have to be something that's in our budget.
Yes.
I mean, that our budget records that we have, true?
Yes.
Okay,
All right, so V, can we work on that and try to work on that right away and see if we can get, I guess, some priorities from us, and then we'll discuss it. But first, we'll get those priorities, come back together, and then we'll figure out which
And
will
we
be.
can help you through, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, we can help you through helping get the priorities.
Because they did a great job last year
Yeah,
with my office doing that.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
sat down and did that
We
quite a
can help
bit.
you. So for example, you wanted to do the scholarship.
Correct.
That was a big thing for you. I would say to you that we might be able to get Florida Memorial put that in and that not be a city project. That's a possibility. No, okay. But
I'll go with whatever, but that wasn't the goal
So-
behind, but that's not the goal behind the higher ed, so that's why I shook my head.
Okay, all right, but the city has to decide that that's a priority.
Sure.
For you. $57,000, it probably needs to be more.
Yeah.
Mayor,
We need to.
and see, that's another thing.
if we're gonna have another meeting, it needs to be a meeting, not a workshop. Because what y'all are gonna have to do is vote on the top 3 projects, and somebody's got to tally it, and that's gonna be the top 3 projects,
And
which
see,
means
that's
there has
the-
to be a meeting and not a workshop.
But can we kind of sit down before that?
Yeah, you
And
just don't have
then
any
come
meetings
up
in
with
November, so
those-
that's, you're running up against the problem that you don't have any meetings. You can do a workshop and then a meet, yeah, you can, but
Yeah.
We'll work it out.
Okay.
All right, we got past that. Okay. Let me just keep going. So we're gonna come back. We'll be a part of that conversation to help you do the priorities, whether it be 6 or whatever. We'll figure it out.
All right.
Promise.
All right.
Y'all good
All
with
right.
that?
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Okay.
Okay, good. All right. So let me just quick.
Yeah, I'm great
because
with
know
that. I
we're
just
running
have one
out
more
of time.
question
Yes,
though
ma'am.
about it.
I'm sorry.
ahead.
Okay, so these issues that the items that we put down, you were saying the items that we finally come to agree upon as our priorities. When it comes to talking to legislators or folks like that, other than like the days portion, how does that process work?
Okay, let me go through my little map.
Oh, okay, well, I tell you what, just
All
ask.
right. Let
You
me
mean
go
the
through my
pink and
little map.
green one?
The pink and green one. The pink and green one. All right. So
Boy, I tell you, boy.
So where we are right now is at the bottom. See where the arrows are? It says LBC issues long-range financial outlook. That's the Legislative Budget Commission. So they kind of get with this woman named Amy Baker, who I don't know what qualifies her to be so smart, but she's the economist for the state. And they get together and they predict what the outlook would be for the state, and they come up with a base budget. And once they come up with the base budget, that's kind of where we are now, where it goes to, see the arrow goes up to the state agencies to submit. So they have to submit their own budget. So whether it be children and family, Department of Transportation, they're coming up with their own budgets. That's why it's important that you also be in communication with people like the South Florida Water Management District, Department of Transportation. They all have regional people. So you can kind of get a gauge for what they're thinking, because they're going to present their agency budget to the legislature as a part of the process. First, they submit it to the governor, and the governor comes out with his budget. And his budget is what we call play budget, because it doesn't have to balance, it doesn't mean, it's just an indication of where he's looking to put money or where he's looking to put emphasis. We know last year it was about voting. It was all about voting, all about protest. You know, he created the election police and got $1 million. So all of that was in his recommended budget. That budget then goes to the legislature, and then the legislature then mocks up the budget, and they put out their own budget. Their budget has to balance, and that's what it says. The legislature creates and passes the GAA, the General Appropriations Act. So they pass that. That's what they do during the session. You know, where we're all waiting around to see if the governor's gonna veto or whatever. The governor then executes the budget after he does his vetoes. And then we start all over again. He gets it to the state agency and they distribute it. One of the things that we started to see under this governor is that a lot of the pass-through money is in the Office of Economic Opportunity. And so we're paying very close attention to those large pots of dollars. So they come out really weird. Sometimes they announce it, sometimes they don't. So that's the cycle. That's the cycle of how the money is dispersed. Yes.
Can you restate what the LBR
And we can go on to the next page, which I think is the dates. We start in March because it's it'll be a non-election year. We started in January last year because it was an election year. And you'll see here, claims bills, you don't have to really worry about that. I don't think we have any claims bills filed against you. That would have to be in by August 1st. The first day of session is March 7th. In between that time, they have what they call committee weeks. I mentioned one, which is the organization session where people get sworn in. Then we'll come back, I think 1 or 2 weeks in December to start hearing bills, committee bills. They'll present the governor's budget probably sometime in January. And then we end session the 60th day on May 5th. But in a non-election year, they usually have an extension for some reason. We know that property insurance is going to be a big deal. You may want to make that as one of your priorities. Property insurance is going to be a big deal in terms of residents. We have 3 constitutional amendments, one of whom deals with property taxes, where they're trying to, actually it's 2, that they're trying to expand the amount of exemptions for teachers, et cetera. That may pass. That's going to affect your budget, because that'll be fewer dollars coming in because of the exemptions. So that's on the ballot in November.
That's for the teachers, correct?
That's for the teachers. That is correct. They expanded it another 50,000. The problem with it is that it's so broad.
Does that item, it don't have a percentage, right? It don't have specified.
No, it's 50,000.
Yeah.
It's poorly worded.
Yeah.
The other, just real quick, the other amendments, one is to get rid of the Constitutional Revision Commission. That's not a good idea. As I explained, I was speaking to the Broward workshop this morning. Those amendments, is 3 of them. It's no, and hell no. Like, we don't want any of those. We don't want any of those because they would affect your budgets. Now, the state of Florida doesn't allow you to put on a campaign, but you talk to people all the time. And so it's important that you know about those constitutional amendments. The League of Women Voters has a great summary of the amendments that we can get to you. It's nonpartisan, but yeah, it's no, and hell no.
Okay. You'll get it to us?
Sure.
The first one, you said that this request, the initial request is done in March because it's non-election year. So what does it do when it is an election?
No. It's not, the form isn't doing March. We start session in March.
Okay.
We started session in January this past year because it was an election year. That was something Senator Flores put together, I don't know, about 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay, my other question is, I see that the LRPPs, tell me what that the acronym stands.
Okay, let me go. Felicia Robinson, answer your phone.
And you know better.
The House calls it one thing and the Senate calls it another. It's basically the same thing.
So it's the same legislative budget.
Right.
So
Right.
one of the LBR is the House and the other
Right,
is the
I
Senate.
forget what they call it different. I mean, the Senate and the House operate very differently. In the House, let me just mention, in the House, they're requiring to have hearings on all of your requests. And they've even modified that. It used to be that you'd have a physical hearing. Now they put it on consent agenda like you do. And they pass them all, but we do have to present. And there'll be other presentations. I know the mayor came up to present on one of the African-American culture projects. We were not successful there, but you know, God has such a sense of humor. The governor never authorized the 175 million, so no hating, but so they didn't get their money either. So we didn't get ours, they didn't get theirs either. So any other questions?
Oh, good. Any other question, guys?
I don't have a question. I guess I okay.
Free your mind.
Come on.
You know, I think in my mind, when I look at our priorities, It's extremely difficult, I think, to only come up with 3, given that you may have some things that are extremely important to the
Right.
residents that you represent, and not have an opportunity for it to have an opportunity to be heard at the state level. And I get that it's a difficult thing for you guys, I really do. But I'm just saying that it just, you have 7 members and 50% that may not be represented. And so, it's just gonna be us trying to bring consensus. I get it.
It
but-
is a challenge, but I'm just communicating to you what legislators are telling me.
I get
You
it.
have legislators that have multiple cities. And so we want to make it easy for them, and then we want to do our part. You're a large city, you should be getting large stuff, And
I get the
so-
idea about the
yeah.
amounts.
So
yeah.
I would love to go to Senator Jones and say, listen, we got one thing, it's worth $2 million. Just do this. That's just kind of how it works. We would love for Miami Gardens to put in 10 things and to get 10 things. But with the way that the process is set up, that may happen, but what we're hearing from the people that represent you is that please don't give us 7 things. Just let us know what's the most important. Doesn't mean that we won't work on all of them, but at least, must-haves. When I go shopping, I have a whole basket, and my pocketbook say, just get what you must have, and that's kind of how it works. And I think the discipline associated with making the priorities will get you to a place where you want to be. And we're available. I love this stuff. If you want to come back and walk through the priorities with you guys, I'm willing to do that. I instinctively know what's been funded before and what hasn't. Like if you tell me, I want the state of Florida to build us a new gymnasium, I'll say, okay, well, let's see how we can do that. We probably could do it through the grant process. It won't be a member project. So there's other ways, once I know what your priorities are and the size of them, there may be other ways that we can find in the budget other than this is just one way. This is just a single member request. It doesn't mean that we don't, lobby DOT about the traffic coming out of the stadium or something like that. Doesn't mean that we don't do that part. It just means that we have, 3 things that we must have, and then we can deal with the rest.
Now, what about legislative amendments?
So amendments. So the amendment process comes simultaneously with appropriations, because you have appropriations and then you have substantive bills. The amendment process occurs during the entire legislative process. So you have amendments to the budget, right, which are very, very hard to do. They have to be approved ahead of time, so by the time you see it on television, it's all orchestrated. You know what's going to be accepted, and you hear people say, I withdraw that amendment, I withdraw that amendment. So amendments happen throughout the process. They also happen for substantive bills. So that occurs throughout the process. So,
No, I'm talking about to the law. To the law.
Right.
Not to the budget.
To the budget, right. You have the budget and then you have the law.
And so.
Then you have, and I'll be glad to walk it through you sidebar.
And the reason why I'm asking about it is, like, we'll have our priorities.
Right.
Are the priorities separate from a legislative amendment request?
You kind of mix an apple and oranges again. So, yes.
They are separate
but I need to walk you through the legislative process.
Okay.
Because when they do the budget, right, and so the way that the budget is done, we do all of this stuff. We get the governor's budget, and the legislature says, okay, we're going to do it this way. This is what we want. Then to fix the budget, the House has their part, the Senate has their part. We want to add this, we want to take it, that's the amendment process for the budget, okay? And then they come out with this GAA, this final project that everybody has agreed upon with all the amendments and all of that. So that's the budget. They have to pass that. Then you have substantive legislation, you can only wear yellow shoes on Fridays. Okay, let's make an amendment that, let's make it blue shoes too. That's substantive, law separate and apart from the budget.
I'm
which is
talking about the
passed.
substantive law.
Right, right. And
So
that
is
goes.
that the same process? That's what I'm trying to get at.
A little.
And would that be a part of the priorities? So we got the budget over here.
You may
then the
have some
substantive.
substantive priorities.
Mhm.
I mentioned Airbnbs. You may say, we don't want to do Airbnb. You may say, listen, we don't want nothing to do with marijuana centers in our city. All right, that may be a priority. You know, it's not a budget priority, but it's still important. And you may find that that's the most important thing you want to do. And then we can work on with that priority as well.
But what I'm trying to ask is, would that be inclusive of the three? Or would the budgetary priorities be over here and a substantive priority be over here?
I would say that you could do 3 budgetary priorities.
And then a substantive priority.
Right.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because you're gonna have things like the League of Cities, all y'all involved with the League of Cities, you get newsletters from them doing a whole session about what's passed and what's not. We're taking that information and compare it to see if some of this affects Miami Gardens. Benita tells us, hey, we don't like this. We got something last session. We don't like this. And we, because it's fast and moving, we followed that from beginning to end. Where is Zachary? Zachary was on my case about that legislation. And that was something new that Zachary did that was amazing that you need to do again. When there are things that affect you, that affect Miami Gardens, we want to be a mouthpiece to tell Representative Robinson, tell Senator Jones, hey, you know, Miami Gardens really has a problem with that. And then we go to the League of Cities. We meet with the League of Cities and the Association of Counties every Wednesday for lunch. And we talk about things that are important to your city. I know Miami Gardens, so sometimes I don't even have to call and say, I know we don't like that. You know, so the opportunity is there along the way on the substantive issues as well. It's complicated, but that's why it's so important.
You know, I don't find it complicated. I just don't have a knowledge of it.
Okay.
And so, like, once I get the knowledge, it seems to me like it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not hard.
It makes sense, and you are really blessed to have the type of relationships that you have with your legislators. Not every city has that at all. So we just really need to give them the tools so that they can be effective, because they care about Miami Gardens. And I'm not just saying that, she's not even in the room, but they do care about Miami Gardens. And you're very, very blessed to have that. So let's use it.
Any other questions? No other questions?
Just a quick statement. I like the fact that you mentioned about just the one voice.
Yeah.
I think it's that spoke volumes to me. Sometimes we have to put some of our personal agendas aside and try to speak with one voice and what's best for the whole. I like that. That stood out to me.
I do have one more question.
Okay.
So now we see all, and look, I'm on an education. So, and I've learned, you know, because when I was a principal, part of our mission statement is to be a lifelong learner. So I know I don't know everything, so I'm gonna ask. So now, when we look at this whole change, all these changes in here, and there appears to be a swing in the Republican line, does your office have those that have relationships on the public?
I'm glad you said that question. So yeah, I'm personally a Republican. I'm telling you, I told you, we just left the speaker yesterday, and then Danny Perez today. We have, you have not just me and LaToya, you have Ellen Bogdanoff, who's a former Republican senator and House member, who's on our team, Jose Fuentes, who's Republican. We have the chair of, member of the Republican committee here in Dade County. Max is a part of that. In Washington, You have Omar Franco, who was the former chief of staff to Mario Diaz-Balart. If the House flips, and I haven't even talked about Washington yet, that's a whole nother story. But if that flips, then Mario would be a chair. And so we have that relationship. Marco Rubio is a former member of our firm who I was okay till you vote against for Katanji, but no, but so we have relationships on both. You have to.
Yeah.
You have to. So we have relationships on both sides. We have a team of 12 between Washington and state, and we're at the county too. We pay attention to what's going on at the county. If you had a need there, but we pay attention there, and we got a whole team. So I'm just personally committed to Miami Gardens, but when it push comes to shove, we all get in and try to work on both sides of the aisle. We spend a lot of money that you don't have to put out because you can't put out, but we are very much involved in the campaign process. We delivered some love throughout the state on both sides of the aisle. You have to. And we pride ourselves in doing that.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson.
All right, thank you.
I want
for
to
the time.
thank Toya. I want to thank Ms. Jackson. Thank the state representative for being here with us this afternoon. And I want to also say to Ms. Jackson, congratulations for being named the president of the Beacon Council.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
You had your first, was it your first
I
meeting
had my
yesterday?
first action.
Yeah.
If I may take a point of personal privilege, Miami Gardens is front of mind. So don't be shy. I think I've shared that with a few of you all. It is my intent that Miami-Dade County literally go from Homestead to County
Miami.
Line Road.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the mayor was there yesterday for the Convention Visitors and Conventions Bureau. And when they were looking up at those slides, I copied them. I was like,
I did too. I took pictures of it. I took pictures of it.
That's right. And that's what we're going to do. So I look forward to that. And I look forward to the journey with you guys. The city looks great. I just get so excited, almost emotional about the progress that you have made and the progress that I think that we can make together. So I look forward to working with you. I commend your great staff. They don't give us a break. They gave us a break. So, but we want to make sure that we're giving you the best service that we can, and I'll do this all over again if you wanted to.
Thank you so
All right.
much. We
Thank
appreciate it. All hearts and minds are clear. This meeting is adjourned. Don't go.